my people, welcome back to Dr. Yeti Real Estate. It is your favorite real estate agent, Dr. Yeti, and I am back with yet another video. Today we're doing a reaction video. We're going live today with this, and I'm super excited to this is a whole completely new format for me, so I'm excited to see how this goes. But let us see what is happening in the housing market. See, I don't know if you have watched me in the past, okay? If you haven't, I have a couple of videos that I can recommend to you, but I've talked about how recently the housing market has been looking a little bit different. There's a huge skew in the market where it's favoring the buyers at this point in time. The houses have been sitting on the market for a lot longer, and the sellers are willing to negotiate a little bit more than previously. And so now today, we are going to be doing a reaction video to Zach Rios's video. I noticed that he does a lot of market analysis type of videos recently. So we're going to do that. So let's get into it.
I am selling my house and losing probably about $20,000.
Just got a call from the realtor that the people buying our house might be backing out.
If your home's not selling, it's because it's overpriced. Buyers determine the value of your home.
So with the housing market being where it is right now, we're starting to see a lot of people struggle to sell their homes. Whether it's because they had the flipping mindset and they bought at the peak of the market a couple years ago, or maybe the actual cost of owning a home is way more than they initially thought when they saw the monthly mortgage payment. They decide to sell the house and move, but buyers are not there right now. We have a lot of different examples to go over today, along with comments from you guys from previous videos. So if you want to be featured on a future video, leave in the comments down below. But let's just jump right into it.
I am selling my house and losing probably about $20,000, maybe more, but let's hope not. I'm sharing this with all of you because I have heard, oh, that never happens. People never lose money on the sale of a house. That's not true, especially if you purchased your house in 2022 or 2023 at the height of the market. I think if you're selling your house right now, dependent on what market you're in, you might be facing something similar. And I've seen a lot of people talk about that. But buying a house in 2023 or building a house like we did was what we thought was the best decision.
And
Here's the thing. Okay, so it might be laggy a little bit. So here's the thing. Okay, I might be laggy a little bit, but bear with me because, like I said, this is a whole different platform for me, a different format for me. But here's the thing, right? If you buy a house and you buy a house with the intention of selling it less than 5 years after you buy it, you run a high risk.
Best decision.
wait, let me pause this. On to that,
you run a high risk of losing a lot of money at the end of it. Why? Because if you buy a house and you have not built enough equity on it and you pay market value for the property, you are not going to make enough money to pay attorney fees, your realtor fees, any other closing costs that are associated with closing when you sell a property. So if you are trying to buy a house and you're not being strategic about it, you purchase the home and you just say, you know what, like, I'm buying a house because I want to, and you're not being strategic about it, you will lose money at closing. It's just no doubt about it. Unless your property grew in equity significantly, like let's say you are in a neighborhood where there's a lot of projects happening and it has caused the values of the properties in that neighborhood to go up significantly in a short period of time, there's no way, typically, there's no way for you to be able to sell a house within 3 years of buying it and thinking you're not going to lose money from it. Purchasing a home is a long-term investment. It's not a short-term investment, because even after you sell a house within you living in it less than 2 years, you're going to have to pay capital gains. You're going to have to pay capital gains tax even if you make a little bit of profit in it. So you don't want to buy a house and sell it in a short period of time without the intention, without knowing in your mind, these are your plans, these are your goals. All right, let's get back to the video.
Is new construction. If you watched any of my previous videos talking about it, there are more and more people, including myself, that are very iffy on buying something that's brand new. The quality just doesn't seem to be there. On top of building it at the peak of the market, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to make money or break even at this time in 2025. Some of the comments, when they say investment, they aren't expecting you to sell in 2 to 3 years. If you sell 1 to 2 years after, unfortunately, any gains that you've had are eaten up by...
That is literally what I said. The first comment literally said exact. Mind you, I haven't watched this video yet. This is like my first time seeing this video, but it's just clear as day. Like, you buy a house, why would you sell it within 2 to 3 years? Buying a house is a long-term investment. That's why. So when I do consulting with people, I let them know straight up, what is your strategy? You have to know what your strategy is as a strategy. Your strategy is, when you're buying a house, you don't want to buy a house with the intention of selling it within 2 to 3 years. You just don't. Because you are going to lose money. It's a guarantee. There's no doubt about it. But then if you say, okay, I'm going to buy the house, hold it, maybe I'm not going to live in it for 2 to 3 years, but I'm going to end up renting it. Then the strategy comes by, okay, do I want to buy a house in the HOA? And if I do buy a house in the HOA, is the HOA going to have an issue with me renting it out to a tenant? Those are things that you have to strategically do. Houses are over $100,000 most of the time. And like 95% of homes in America are over $100,000. So that's a lot of money that you are investing. Even though people say homes aren't investments necessarily, it's a place for you to lay your head, you're still investing your money into a place for you to lay your head. So if you are investing in this property, you need to make sure that you are strategic. You're purchasing with strategy. You're intentional about it. You're not just buying it, oh, I just want to have a house, I want to live in it, and I want to pay less than rent, which is a whole different conversation that I've debunked and talked about on numerous occasions. But you don't want to buy a house just for the fun of it, just because you can afford it, because you will lose money if you're not strategic about it.
By realtor fees. People don't consider those fees when it's time to sell.
I talked about that.
Sound like much more of a flipper mentality. Like any investment, you have to know when to hold and when to sell. I sold my house in Charlotte last month. I bought it for $310,000 in 2023 and sold it for $295,000. Thankfully, I didn't have to pay anything at closing, but sucked for sure.
Listen, if you purchased a home in 2022, you purchased a home in 2023, around that time, home prices were really high. Home prices were high. Houses weren't really moving like that in those years. So if you purchased a home around that time period and you try to sell it now, first of all, 2023 is less than 2 years, right? So, but the fact that this person had to sell it at a loss, right? Versus, you know, it's, I'm telling y'all, you have to be strategic. Now, people ask me, when is a good time to buy, right? And I tell them, there's never really a bad time to buy. You just have to be strategic about it. If in 2023, this person purchased a home lower or less than market value, right? And they try to sell it today, they might have probably made some money from it, right? But if they decided to buy the house at market value or more, because around 2022 people were offering more, right? You try to offer more on these properties and you trying to sell it now. I mean, this person got lucky and said that they didn't lose anything, most likely because they built some equity on the house. But imagine if you didn't build any equity on the house. You're going to be out of luck at the closing table. Out of luck.
Sure. A comment from you guys that goes along with the new construction build. The first thing I do when scrolling through real estate listings is anything in an HOA field. And if there is anything in that box, no matter the merits of the house, I keep scrolling. I do the exact same thing. So that does also cut out a lot of the new construction builds. And you'll have an even smaller pool of clientele who are willing to buy the house today.
The story went viral on Reddit about a homeowner in Colorado who listed their house and it's been 45 days without a single showing. TLDR, they bought the house for just under $540K and they put almost $30,000 more into it. Now they started that listing at $540K and they've already cut it down to $525. They still owe $475,000 on the house and they know they're going to lose money, but they don't want to lose even more for agent fees. And then she says that they've been also building a new house out of state that they've paid for and it's going to be done at the end of September, so they need to sell this house. Now it sounds like they're stretched way too thin and you just hate to see it.
I don't know.
Okay, first of all, I find that extremely irresponsible. One, it wouldn't make sense for you to start building a house before you sell your first house. How do I say this? There is a strategy. If you have a house that you want to sell and then you want to buy another house, there's a strategy you have to do, right? You put the house on the market, you sell it, and you let the buyers know, I need a certain amount of time, right? 30 to 60 days before I move out of this current property in order for me to find another property for myself to move in, right? This is something that it might make it a little bit more challenging to sell the house because now the buyer is going to have to wait a whole 2 months to move into the property, but it's still like it's still more responsible than buying a house and then building another house, because if you're building a house, there's a lot of money that goes into that. You have to pay money to secure the lot. You have to pay money to continue to build it, because I know a lot of builders, they ask you to after a certain amount of time, they ask you to start putting in money every single month to make sure that the building is moving, right? And really they do that to keep your money, to make you more invested into it so that you don't back out. You know, if you've put down $5,000 on this house and then every single month you're putting down $8,000, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money you've already felt invested in this property, so you don't want to back out, right? Because they keep that money, right? And so you're buying a house and it's just not, it doesn't make any sense. This is financially irresponsible. No, but the thing is, if you don't have somebody that's helping you and like directing you and holding your hand, you will be making the worst decision, just like this person is.
I think that might be an understatement. Already building another home while you're actively losing money on the first one? A little bit more context with the comment section. The problem is that the house is in Wellington, Colorado. It's Wellington, duh. It's in Wellington. There's nothing in Wellington. No one wants to live there unless there's no other option. So on top of the high housing...
Another thing that I will say is that the buyers dictate the value of your house. And if you list your house for $550,000 and no one is buying it, 9 times out of 10 it's because your house is overpriced. And someone may bite and buy the house. It doesn't matter how much you bought the house. Unfortunately, maybe you bought the house when it was overpriced. That's why when I work with my clients, I make sure that they understand that, hey, you don't want to buy this house at asking price because it's significantly overpriced. You want to offer less than asking price because this property is way overpriced, or offer asking price, but they pay closing costs, which I would not recommend. I would highly suggest that you offer what the house is actually worth or less than that. Right? But you don't want to offer more than what the house is worth, because you will find yourself in a situation like this in the case that you want to sell the house. You're not going to make the most out of it because you didn't build enough equity on your property to make any type of money from it.
prices, the high interest rates. Location is, of course, a big factor as well, and it sounds like whoever made this post is going to lose a lot of money.
Dallas homes appear to be extremely overpriced, but maybe if they drop 40%, they'll start selling. This woman says, I sold my home last year in Dallas. I had to reduce my price several times, but it did sell. She says, I hope to pick up a good deal once people realize they need to reduce their list prices. Dallas housing supply is through the roof. We're talking 60% more inventory than normal. This is great news for DFW home buyers like us because there's the most selection that the market has had since the tail end of the last downturn in 2011-2012. But great news for buyers typically means bad news for sellers. This person says, good, it's about time for a price.
First of all, if I keep going, this reflects the same sentiment that I had in my previous video, where I talked about the fact that there is a higher inventory of properties in Atlanta. They're talking about Dallas. I'm talking about Atlanta. It's similar in Atlanta. The inventory is higher. Homes are sitting on the market for longer. Sellers are willing to negotiate, right? The ratio for, what is this? The ratio for closing price and asking price is 97% right now. And I think last month it was like 98%. Which means that the sellers are willing to negotiate more on properties now than they were in the past. So if you're trying to buy a house, this is like, I made a video on TikTok about the fact that this is the best time to buy a house, and people are like, oh no, you're wrong. They're like, no, if you wait to buy a house and like, oh, the prices are gonna drop, there's gonna be an overflow of home buyers. Do you think you're the only home buyer that thinks it's the best time to buy a house at a season? No, a lot of other people are thinking the same as you. They're gonna flood the housing market, and then instead of it to be a buyer's market, it eventually turns into a seller's market because now there's so much demand of houses that all the homes are flying off the market because there's so many people in the housing market looking to buy a house. Right now, we are at the cusp, like the very beginning of a buyer's market, which means you can find a house that's been sitting on the market 90 plus days and offer way less than asking price. The seller might not be willing to reduce the price right now, but when you offer them something, when you submit an offer, you can submit an offer for something way less than what they're asking for. And when you do that, the sellers would be willing to bite the bullet because their house has been sitting on the market for 90 plus days. They want to sell their house. They want to get out of this home, especially homeowners that have equity on their house already. So I know a lot of people feel like this is not a good time to buy, and they're looking at the news and like there's a bubble that's going to pop. Listen, interest rates are low right now. Last time I checked, it was 6.5%. Interest rates are pretty low right now. Well, low compared to what has been this whole year, right? Low compared to what's been this past year. And then houses are just sitting on the market for a long period of time. This is the best time. I'm telling you, like, you don't have to go into the market and say, okay, I'm going to offer asking price. Don't offer asking price. This is when you have a realtor that can negotiate for you. You want your realtor to negotiate for you. And this time, don't just be like, oh, the housing prices are still high. They're not going down. Of course, they're not going to go down. The sellers don't want to lower their prices. That's when you come in and negotiate and drop the price lower. And then if the interest rates eventually decides to drop even lower, you can always refinance to even drop it lower. But I say all of this to say, don't purchase a home with the intention of lowering your interest rate. Purchase a home with the intention that this home, at the current interest rate that it is right now, I can actually afford the monthly mortgage payments. That's how you have to think about it. At the current interest rates, I can currently afford to buy this house. Don't buy a house with the intention of saying, oh, it's expensive, but I'll wait next year, the interest rates to drop, and then I'll refinance. Don't do that. That is not wise. You are asking to be house poor. It may or may not work out. Who knows? But that's a very risky strategy. Okay, let me keep playing because I know I keep pausing, but I just have a lot of points to make.
Correction, prices need to drop 30 to 40%, if not more, because everyone thinks their home is $500,000 to $750,000 in the North Dallas area.
Dallas homes barely worth $400,000 are listed for $800,000 with zero updates or maintenance. It's wild out here. As a homeowner, I hope the market crashes. I'm tired of spending crazy high property taxes that's based on unrealistic home value. Another issue coming up right there. Along with Austin and places in Florida, one of the very popular areas that got built up very quickly during the COVID era when people were moving and spending outrageous money on homes. But now people don't have that kind of money, and we're starting to see the real estate market swing to the buyers, which in turn brings in examples like this with buyers demanding a lot more if they do want to sign on the dotted line.
Can I just vent about selling a home? Our house has been on the market for 9-10 months. We're supposed to close tomorrow, and these people, the request of things is like outrageous. They want a credit towards future issues, like the stone on the outside. They want 13 grand to fix the stone if something happens. They want us to redo the cement on the side of our house that we just put in to build stairs. We just put in a golf cart path and now they want stairs, but they want us to do it and us to pay for it. Are these outrageous requests or are these normal? Help.
Okay, so the credit for
Low key, that's outrageous. I'm not gonna lie to you. That is extremely outrageous. They're closing tomorrow. You don't owe them that, seller, because they most likely have already bypassed or finished the due diligence period. If they want to back out of this contract, yeah, you get to keep your earnest money. But no, that is an outrageous request. I've had buyers do that with me with one of my listings, like, oh, we want you to fix this, we want you to pay for inspection on this deck, and we want you to do this. And then listen, all right, this house is not bad. You did an inspection on it, you saw the results. We're not fixing any of this stuff. And it's not about pride. It's just about, like, just because it's a buyer's market doesn't mean you have to get over on people. You're asking them to pay you $13,000 to fix, to put a staircase in. Like, that doesn't even make sense. You want them to pay for your upgrades? When you submitted an offer on the house and you saw that it didn't have these upgrades, why did you submit an offer on it? The seller's not, at this point, if you're closing tomorrow, she is not obligated to doing any of that. And if they want to back out, they can definitely back out, because absolutely not.
Possible future issues. I'm not sure if her house is brand new or older. Again, if it is new construction, I kind of understand a bit more, because there's truly unlimited amount of examples online showing that these houses are made of basically paper mache. But again, I don't know the year her house was built, but a lot of people in the comments are saying the same thing. They're making those requests because it's been listed for so long, 9-10 months. That's someone taking advantage of the home being on the market for a long time. They must believe that you're desperate to sell. Maybe she is, maybe she is.
You know what? Let me tell you guys something. Remember when I mentioned a few seconds ago or a few minutes ago about the fact that if the house has been sitting on the market for longer, you have room to negotiate. You have a lot of room to negotiate, a lot. Now, the buyers are being very ridiculous and it's very unfair. But if you really want to sell your house, it's been sitting on the market for 9 months. You know, you do what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do. And that's why, like, let me tell you something. When I work with sellers, I tell them, hey, listen, if you want to list your property, you got to list it at the right price, because the longer the house sits on the market, you're going to eventually have to drop it to the price that it was supposed to be. And now people are going to even offer less than what it's actually worth, because the house has been sitting on the market for such a long period of time. And we know you really want to sell it. You are eager to sell it because the house has been sitting on the market for so long. So I tell this to say, this person, if she wants to sell her house, my sentiment still remains that the buyer is doing too much. However, I will say that if the seller really wants to sell that house, they're going to have to do what it got to do. They're going to have to make it do what it do. You know what I mean? So it's very unfortunate, but that is just the nature of the business of real estate. That's just how it is.
isn't, but at least in my opinion, if I see a listing of a home that's been up for 200, 250 days, I immediately think that there must be a problem with the house. Why hasn't it sold? Either legitimate damage or problems with the house, or it just being overpriced in general.
So, update on the house. The realtor just told us. I thought that we would be. So we bought this house for $350. I thought we'd be able to sell it for $4. Sorry, I just drank some carrot juice. We put so much money into renovations into this house. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. I thought that would be able to go towards the house, but we can only sell it for $355. So I basically lost my inheritance. My dad left me like $40,000 and I put it all into the house. And that's
Now, before she finishes, I've talked to y'all before about this and I'm gonna tell you about it again. If you want to buy a house, not even if you want to buy a house, if you want to sell your house or any property for that matter, you have to run comps in the neighborhood, because it's not about your house, it's about the location of your house. You've seen houses in LA that look really not that the biggest and they're selling it for $1 million. That same property, you put it in Georgia and it's going to be selling for like $300,000. The location matters. So when you want to put in renovations and do all these things, if you don't plan on living in that house for a long period of time, you putting the renovations on that property is not going to build the equity, because there's a cap. There's a cap to how much your house will sell for. Because if the houses in the neighborhood are selling for $400,000, if the houses in the neighborhood that are similar to yours are selling for $400,000, and you want to sell your house for $600,000, that's not going to work. Because just because you put in $200,000 worth of work in this property doesn't mean that people will buy for that price. Because the price of the house is based on the location, is based on the surrounding homes. What are people saying about this house? Like, it doesn't matter if your house is the nicest house in the entire neighborhood. It might be the most expensive, but it might be more expensive by like $10,000, $20,000 maybe even up to $40,000 depending, right? But it might be sitting on the market for a lot longer because this neighborhood is known to have properties similar to yours for $500,000 or $400,000. So you have to be strategic about that. And a lot of times people don't think about the strategy behind home ownership, but also a lot of times people don't even think it matters. They don't think it matters that you have to be strategic about how you buy your house, how you sell your house, right? This is an investment. Anyway, y'all, let's get back to the video.
it's about how much money we're losing. So
The best advice I ever got around owning a home is that it isn't an investment. It's a place to live. I agree with that more and more now. Your mortgage payment is still like rent, and if you get money when you sell, it's a plus. Real estate is a long.
I don't agree with that. I still feel like it's an investment. An investment is something that you put in time or money into, especially if it's a lot of time and money. Like even if you're renting in an apartment, that's still an investment. Now, is it a good, do you get a good ROI from investing in an apartment? Absolutely not, because the only ROI you get is that you have a place to lay your head. But the return on investment for a house compared to rent are different, but you are still investing. It's still an investment, regardless of how you put it. It's still an investment. If you're investing time, if you're investing money into it, it's an investment, but it has to be a strategic one. It could be an investment into your long-term home, into your short-term home. It could be an investment to build generational wealth. It could be, but it's an investment nonetheless. So let's not call it something that it's not.
long-term game. You're not losing, you're moving too fast. There's no one in the world who would have told you to buy a house for $350 and sell it for $400 while also putting thousands, apparently tens of thousands of dollars into it. It doesn't make any sense at all. Sounds like it was overpriced when you bought it, possibly again during the peak a few years ago. Too many people making a quick buck in the game, they don't know how the pieces move. So I mean, if you were anywhere in the financial space around COVID time, especially 2020 when a lot of us were stuck in our house, there was so much content of everybody saying you gotta buy property, start your real estate portfolio, you'll just be racking in money so quickly. And it kind of sounds like that got a little bit out of hand with people's cash offers over asking, and now we're seeing somewhat of a correction. I'm not saying that we're back to normal. Houses are wildly unaffordable still, but we're not in the same era where you could buy a house and make a ton of money flipping it in a year.
Based on what's happening in the markets, based on what people are going through, being a homeowner is not what it always seems, but that's okay if you plan ahead of time. If you plan ahead of time, knowing that, okay, if I become a homeowner, these are the things that I'm going to expect. These are the things I'm going to have to face. Let me prepare for these things. Let me avoid these things before it happens, right? If you can't afford to pay it, your mortgage payments right now, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to wait to refinance, you understand that the taxes will go up. The homeowner's insurance will go up. Your monthly mortgage payments are not going to stay the same. So if you are, buying or doing anything without strategy, selling the house without strategy, buying the house without strategy, you are going to be out of luck when you decide that you want to sell it, or when you live in the house and things are breaking, but you don't have enough money to pay for it because most of your money is going into the mortgage. Now you're house poor. Now you're buying, you have buyer's remorse. So you have to be very cautious about these things before you decide that you want to buy a house, before you decide that you want to sell your house, before you decide that you want to put in work into your house to build equity, right? Listen, you got to be strategic. Anyway, y'all, let me know if this video resonated with you, if it helped you in any way, shape, or form. And if you're looking to buy a house in the Atlanta area, I'm your girl. Send me a message. The information is in the description below. And also follow me on my social media platforms. Subscribe to this page, like this video, share it with whomever you think will benefit from it. Have a blessed one. I love you. And remember, God loves you even more. Bye.